Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Lil Brunson back at you with the back at you, and I'm the best reporting on the Eagles. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I gotta let y'all know this video is brought to you by Print Champs. Big Print Champs in the building. You know what we do. You know what I mean? Bringing you the Hurt Season hats, bringing you the Ski Mask Howie, bringing you the Him collection. You know what I mean? All things surrounded by the Philadelphia Eagles merch-wise. You know what I mean? Click the link in the description for that. Also, get with my folks at Underdog Fantasy. NBA playoffs is going crazy right now. You know what I'm saying? They doubling up your first deposit up to $200. So make sure you tap in with those guys with that as well. So, you know, without further ado, I decided to do my top 10 Eagles players drafted all time. You know, we're on the brink of the draft tomorrow, Thursday. You know what I mean? I'll be live with Philly Fresh, Gate City Sports, Philly Mike. We're going to be doing our draft thing, you know what I mean? 7:30 until the first round is completed, I guess. And, you know, it's about time. The Philadelphia Eagles have had some really good guys that they've drafted. You know, unfortunately, everybody can't make the cut. This is my top 10 list of Philadelphia Eagles players drafted as I see it. You know what I mean? So let's start with my honorable mentions. A couple guys that didn't make the cut. Fletcher Cox. You know, Fletcher Cox has been an Eagle from day one. Fletcher Cox has been one of the most dominant defensive tackles the last decade, you know what I mean, in the NFL. He's been one of those ones. Jerome Brown had a really short career, 5 years, but Jerome Brown was physically imposing as a defensive tackle when he played. D-Jax, it was hard to leave D-Jax off this list. It was hard to leave all of these guys off this list. Seth Joyner, really hard to leave Seth Joyner off this list. I personally think Seth Joyner is a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? We'll talk about that, I guess, another time. And Lane Johnson, it was really hard to leave Lane off this list as well. But let's get to the top 10. At 10, you know, it was a toss between Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson, but I gave it to Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham, you know, Super Bowl winner, as is Lane Johnson. Brandon Graham with the iconic strip sack on Tom Brady that helped cap Super Bowl 52. Day one Eagle, you know what I mean, has taken less money to just the ultimate professional. Brandon Graham seems to get better with age. He had a career year last year, you know what I mean? He's been in the league over 10 years. I put Brandon Graham on this list. I think Brandon Graham is, you know, worthy of being one of the top 10 greatest Eagles ever drafted. Number 9, I went with Harold Carmichael. He got into the Hall of Fame late, but Harold Carmichael, in my opinion, was one of the first big body wide receivers. I think he was like 6'4" or something like that. Didn't really see a lot of them play, you know what I mean? I'm not that old, but, you know, Harold Carmichael, you know, was one of those ones, you know what I mean? His jersey has always been iconic. That iconic number 17, I believe it is, always been iconic. Every Eagles game I go to, I see a Carmichael jersey, man. He definitely was that dude. Number 8, Shady, man. Shady low-key changed the game, man. Shady was one of the first, you know, guys that had that rare combination of power and speed and the ability to cut. He's still the all-time leading rusher for the Philadelphia Eagles from the running back standpoint. For a long time, he was the last Eagle to have 1,000 yards until Miles Sanders got it on the ground, I believe. But yeah, Shady was a good draft pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a part of a lot of dynamic offenses, and, you know, he was still wildly productive when he left the Philadelphia Eagles and went to Baltimore. So I got Shady right there. Number 7, I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. I know it's still early in his career, but to have, you know, a second-round pick end up being your franchise quarterback, end up being the highest paid player in NFL history, end up taking your team to a Super Bowl. He wasn't drafted to be a franchise quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He was drafted to, you know, back up Carson Wentz. You know what I mean? Yeah, and you know, Jalen Hurts is that guy. You know what I mean? It is what it is, man. He took over the city. He took over the league. I know it's still early in his career, but the return on investment from what you're already getting from Jalen Hurts is just out of this world. Already got an All-Pro, already an NFC Championship, as we talked about, already played in the Super Bowl. It's a lot of dudes that have been playing for 8, 9, 10 years who hasn't done what, you know, Jalen Hurts has done already in 3 years. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts, and he actually snatched his respect, and that's a big thing. Number 6, I'm going to go with Donovan McNabb. The Donovan McNabb era in Philadelphia, it's a lot of wins attached to that. You know what I mean? It's a Super Bowl trip against Brady, multiple NFC Championship game appearances. T.O. was a part of that. You know what I mean? Donovan McNabb Donovan McNabb is one of the greatest Eagles quarterbacks ever. And, you know, I mean, to not have Donovan McNabb on this list of, you know, top 10 Eagles ever drafted would be criminal. Donovan McNabb is number 6 on this list for me. Number 5, Randall Cunningham. I think Randall Cunningham changed the game for black quarterbacks and scrambling quarterbacks in a way. I think Randall Cunningham became a household name. Some of the things Randall Cunningham was doing to keep plays alive was just remarkable back in that time period. Randall Cunningham, you know, still is an iconic name, an iconic jersey. Randall Cunningham is worthy of being on this list. Number 4, Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce is the greatest center of all time that ever played for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jason Kelce has been the best center in the NFL for the last 3 years. You know what I mean? Jason Kelce is also one of those guys who get better with time. Played in 2 Super Bowls for the franchise. Nobody gets to the second level like Jason Kelce. Great leader, great protector of the quarterback. Jason Kelce is damn worthy of being on this list. And number 3, I got to go with Nick Foles. I don't know if people are going to agree with this or think he should be lower. I think Nick Foles, we drafted Nick Foles. He bounced around and he came back and he played his best ball for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he brought us our first Super Bowl, our first and only Super Bowl MVP, Nick Foles. I mean, that playoff stretch, that playoff run, you know, for what he did to the Minnesota Vikings, then what he did against, he was on fire against the Vikings and against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, completely locked in for 2 games. It truly, Jalen Hurts' performance reminded me of Nick Foles' performance, but the defense just couldn't get a lot of stops. But Nick Foles was locked in. Our one and only Super Bowl MVP is worthy of it. Number 2, Reggie White. Reggie White is one of the greatest defensive players of all time. I think the Philadelphia Eagles got him in like the supplementary draft or something like that. He came from like the USF, some. It's wild, but Reggie White is Reggie White. And number 1 for me has got to be B-Dawk, man. Anytime Brian Dawkins stepped on the field, it don't matter what your defensive scheme was. It don't matter who your defensive coordinator is. Brian Dawkins gave you a chance to have a competent defense because his passion and his love for the game always spilled over. So we could go over this again. Number 10, I got BG. Number 9, I got Harold Carmichael. Number 8, I'm going to go with Shady. Number 7, I got Jalen. Number 6, I got Donovan McNabb. Number 5, Randall. Number 4, Jason Kelce. Number 3, Nick Foles. Number 2, Reggie White. Number 1, Brian Dawkins, man. If there's anybody left out that you think deserves to be on this list, please let me know. The draft is tomorrow. We're going to talk about it. Hopefully we add somebody else to the list.